Hey guys, welcome back to the Carl Jackson Show, your daily dose of objective truth in a world of confusion and lies. I'm joined now by my guest and friend, Stephen Friend. All right, you guys make sure you go out and get his book, True Blue, My Journey from Beat Cop to Suspended FBI Whistleblower. Steve, it's been it hasn't been a while since I've had you on, but I haven't had you on since Kash Patel has been confirmed as the FBI director, and then a bombshell, Dan Bongino was nominated as Deputy Assistant FBI Director. Give us your take on that, both of those particular people, first off.
Well, I'm a huge fan of Kash Patel. I think that he is eminently qualified to be at the helm of the FBI. He brings a great background, I think pretty unique background, unlike most traditional FBI directors who come in and they claim to be a career prosecutor. Kash Patel is not only a federal prosecutor, but also someone who was a defense attorney, a federal defense attorney, which I think is actually very beneficial. He has a recognition of the power that is at the fingertips of the FBI. Also worked in the counterterrorism space and in the intelligence space. And his background was actually in rooting out and exposing the corruption in the FBI. That's how he became sort of a household name if you were following politics during the first Trump administration. And as far as Dan Bongino goes, I mean, look, this is a guy who had made his bones on the Russia hoax that was and exposed it, wrote an entire book on it, and has been outspoken on behalf of needing to root out the corruption within federal law enforcement and specifically to the FBI. I think it's actually a good pick. I think it's an aggressive pick. No more, we're going to stick with the status quo. We're going to promote within, and guys who say that they were in a position of management for 15 or 20 years. I mean, that basically is a confession that you were part of the problem for the last decade or two. So I think that this is a good move, and I'm hopeful that once Dan Bongino gets sworn in, which I believe is the 17th of March, that we're going to actually see maybe some heads on pikes, which is what we really need to see.
Man, okay, you got me excited. I don't know that I've ever been excited about FBI work, but you got me excited. Okay, so Steve, let me ask you this: there was it hasn't gotten much media attention, not as much as it should. Obviously, I mean, Trump has been a whirlwind. I mean, just a whirlwind of stories surrounding Trump in the news daily. But there was a New York Post column, and I'm sure you're aware of it. Whomever may have reported it beyond New York Post. Head of New York's FBI field office, James Dennehy, forced to resign in Trump administration shakeup. Here's the summary, Stephen. The top FBI agent in New York was ousted Monday, saying he wasn't given any explanation for the decision. From Washington, James Dennehy, a U.S. Marine Corps veteran who joined the Bureau after the 9/11 attacks, announced his forced resignation in a letter to staffers at the FBI's New York field office. Now, let me just read this quote. Dennehy said, quote, late Friday, I was informed that I needed to put my retirement papers in today, which I just did. I was not given a reason for this decision. Dennehy apologized for the abruptness of his resignation in the letter, in which he called his colleagues an office of professionals who will always do the right thing for the right reasons. I'm not sure what that means in his case. What's your take on James Dennehy? Because he's also, I got to be honest with you, I did not realize this, Stephen. Again, I'm speaking to my guest, Stephen Friend. Go out and get his book, True Blue, My Journey from Beat Cop to Suspended FBI Whistleblower. I did not realize that this New York FBI field office was involved in the Russia collusion hoax to some degree. Do I understand that correctly? Beyond, obviously, the Epstein files that they withheld from Pam Bundy, who I guess apparently now finally has all of the files.
I mean, everything runs through New York and Washington, D.C. on the Eastern Seaboard for the FBI. And what James Dennehy represented was the old guard, the Christopher Wray, the Paula Bate, former deputy director, holding on the old guard. We're going to step to the new director, Kash Patel, and we're going to resist. James Dennehy sent out an email to his colleagues, his underlings, his subordinates in the New York field office saying that they had to dig in and prepare when Donald Trump was inaugurated as the president. It was under his leadership that they basically held the Epstein files back and refused to give them over to the Attorney General of the United States of America. James Dennehy, who basically claimed, and again, in an email format to his subordinates, that he was reminded of using his entrenching tool to dig a foxhole to prepare for kinetic combat, because of those were his days as a Marine Corps veteran, when he actually never was in any sort of hot kinetic action. So stolen valor is reigned supreme among James Dennehy. This is a guy who's not a very good character, and was actually, I was pleased to see him leave. I wish that he had been walked out sooner than Friday, but I'll take what I can get, and hopefully he's the first of many to come of his type.
Wow. Okay. All right. I did not know any of that, of course, and that's why we have Stephen Friend on. Have you been contacted by anyone in the FBI office, Kash Patel, in anybody, any subordinates, or any other whistleblowers, as far as you know?
Well, I'm in constant contact with people on the inside of the FBI. I mean, even despite the fact that we have Donald Trump as president and Kash Patel as the new director, there is subterfuge that is going on across the entire bureau. I think that even this fallout from what happened with the Epstein list not really being revealed last week was the smack in the face of so many people on the political right who thought that just a change at the top was all that was necessary. There are landmines and speed bumps that have been planted and in preparation for the overhaul of the bureau that have been going on ever since November elections. I mean, I think the biggest revelations that I've had come out all pertain to the ICE deportations. I've had multiple people tell me about their experiences across the country where there's conversations going on inside of the FBI offices where they're allowing personnel to say, I have a moral objection to deporting illegal aliens, so I want to not engage in that, and that's being permitted. Then they're saying publicly, or at least within the four walls of the FBI office, that any agent who agrees to participate, they deem to be a Nazi and basically paint them with a scarlet letter. And then they're asking for volunteers. And anybody who does volunteer then knows that they're going to have to look over their shoulder for some sort of retribution that goes on. And then even beyond that, when they finally acquiesced and you see the FBI, especially on its social media now, bragging now that they are participating in these ICE raids, that's because they have established a quota for themselves to enrich themselves. So the senior executives are getting bonuses because they happen to attend the right number of ICE raids, or they're opening up fake terrorism cases so that they can boost their quota numbers and get bonuses at the end of the year.
This stuff is maddening. So these quota numbers, I mean, obviously Kash Patel needs to put a stop to this ASAP. And I had forgotten that it was FBI officials that were alerting criminals about ICE raids. I had completely forgotten about that. I mean, Steve, this goes back to your original point. I mean, we talked about it. You mentioned it before, and that the FBI needed to be dismantled. I mean, you trust Kash Patel to give it this last, hoorah, or this old college try, if you will. But I think this speaks to your point. I mean, if he can't get this under control, this thing needs to be dismantled.
The conversations we're having now about performance of Kash Patel and Pam Bondi, they're fighting this war, right, to sort of take over the bureau and redirect its efforts to being something objectively good. And there's going to be many battles along the way. But I heard this comparison. I think it really holds true. The first battle is so important. It's like taking the beach at Normandy. You have to get that foothold on dry land so that you can move inland and continue the fight. And this Epstein list really was the first battle, and I don't think they got the complete W. Now, it's not completely over. They can get and hold the people accountable who were holdouts on this, and they need to make it very public and very clear that any sort of pushback that they get from anyone, even the assistant director in charge, James Dennehy, which is an extremely high level in the FBI, they will not be kept on. There will be no opportunities, no second chances. They need to be walked out. They need to be publicly shamed. And there needs to be things like actual prosecutions as it pertains to the leaking of information for these ICE raids, because that's a safety issue. That's putting ICE agents, FBI agents, any law enforcement personnel at risk because they are telling members of Tren de Aragua how and when these law enforcement personnel are going to come in and try to arrest them for deportation. If you're willing to do that, not only should you not have a gun and a badge and credentials, you should be in an orange jumpsuit at the end of an L-shaped hallway in solitary confinement for the rest of your life.
Steve, listen, we only have a minute left in the block. Can you stick with me for one more block? I mean, you're just dropping bombs on me like nobody's business. And I just got a few more questions, or do you need to go?
No, of course, man. Here for you.
Okay, all right. So I appreciate it. Let me circle back. Just 1 minute left in this blog to this Epstein files thing. One of the things that I was concerned about, I was like, is this going to be a dud? I mean, we know the guy was a sicko. We know he's a pervert. He should have got a cat popped in him a long time ago. I mean, that's just kind of the way that I feel about it. So I was like, okay, are we really going to find out anything more? Are we going to find out about Johns or all this? But I mean, is it a bigger issue? I shouldn't say that because he's a sick guy, evil guy. I want to make that emphatically clear. But it is a big deal that within the FBI, just going back to your point, that people were willing to withhold information so that the new leaders won't find out. I almost feel like that's a bigger deal than the Epstein files themselves.
Oh, it 100% is. I mean, no amount of learning what goes on with the Epstein case is going to benefit the average American. It's not going to change your day-to-day life one.
Hey guys, Carl Jackson here for My Pillow, and My Pillow is excited to announce that they're having the first ever mega sale on their overstock clearance and brand new products. For example, you can save over 50% on this season's flannel sheets. The queen size is only $59.98 and the kings are only $69.98, but they sell out fast every year. So be sure to order now. You can also save 30% on their brand new Mike crosses. They're designed in the likeness of the one that Mike has worn every day for over 20 years. They come in men's and women's styles, and they're made right here in the good U.S. of A. Get the 2025 6-piece My Towel sets for only $29.98. The initial quantities are extremely low, so get them before they or while they last. And I can't forget to mention the My Pillow. It's just $14.98. So to take advantage of the first ever mega sale, go to mypillow.com, use promo code Carl, or give them a call at 800-858-0263. 800-858-0263 is the number to call in. But wait, remember that $75, the $75 free shipping rule. So, that ship is sailed because right now for a limited time, every order ships free. That's right. Every order ships free. MyPillow.com, promo code Carl, or give them a call at 800-858-0263. All right, welcome back again. I'm joined by my guest, Stephen Friend, author of True Blue, My Journey from Beat Cop to Suspended FBI Whistleblower. Go out and get his book. And by the way, I mean, they have stripped Stephen of his finances, his ability to go out and get a job the FBI has. So I'm hoping that there will be some repentance in the FBI and that Kash Patel will give Stephen Friend and his colleagues, fellow whistleblowers, a call. They need to get back pay. They need their jobs back if they want them. But that's what I'm hoping and praying for you, Stephen. This situation with Epstein. So before the break, I'm like, okay, is the Epstein? I know he's evil. So please hold your emails, hold your messages. He's evil. I think he's completely all right. He's completely evil, disgusting human being. I went to hell with gasoline draws on. Absolutely get it. But what the FBI is doing and withholding information about him says a lot to me. Actually, more to me about the FBI and law enforcement.
There are a lot of problems with Jeffrey Epstein's case, the way that it was handled in general. All right, you want an unpopular opinion, the one that most people aren't even aware of. Jeffrey Epstein should never have been federally charged for what he did. I'm not crying about a situation because he's a fundamentally evil dude who's burning eternally and never being consumed. But he was charged, arrested, convicted, and sentenced for the exact same crime at a state level in Florida. And the other reason that it came to the nation's attention was because during the first Trump administration, because he got such a sweetheart deal, that prosecutor was being elevated to the Department of Justice, and to use it as a hit piece against Donald Trump, the media elevated Epstein, and then the FBI followed suit and wound up bringing charges. So let's just move to where we are currently on this one. You have Ghislaine Maxwell, who was convicted, sentenced for human trafficking, but we don't know who the Johns were. So it's patently absurd at this point.
Right.
That information should be released, but I think most Americans, it's not going to change your day-to-day operations. It's not going to change your life knowing the intimate details of it. The biggest thing that we need to have is something to the effect of what the FBI did when it mobilized after January 6, 2021, and used all resources to investigate the child exploitation that went on there. There needs to be a task force. There needs to be one that is working on every one of the Johns and bringing forward a quick and speedy investigation and bringing those people to justice before there's any sorts of statutes of limitations that come up or anybody's able to evade law enforcement. And if that necessitates keeping this under wraps for a little bit longer, I'm okay with that. If that necessitates allowing Ghislaine Maxwell to walk free because she names names, then I'm okay with that as well.
Man, I'm going to have to bring you back on Dennis Prager's show to stir up some controversy, Steve, because I think this is fascinating conversation. I got to be honest with you. I mean, there's times where I'm like, Carl, should you say it? Should you say it? Should you say it? Should you risk it? but I do. I do say it because I feel like it's the right thing to say. And one of the things I've said in the past, I'm like, and I forget some of the stuff that you just spat off. Obviously, you've lived this stuff. You know this stuff. Backwards and forwards, but I'm thinking this chick went to jail and we don't even know. We don't even. I mean, we know why, but we don't know the Johns. This makes no sense to me. And I'm thinking, okay, she's an evil person. She did some evil things with an evil man. But if you want to get to the Johns, instead of messing around with her, cut the lady a deal. Find out who the Johns are, and then give her some type of protection because I don't suspect. She would be safe to be frank, but that makes total sense to me.
Yeah, I mean, I think that her safety would probably be a concern when you have Bill Gates saying that, well, Jeffrey Epstein is dead and laughing at it when he's interviewed about it. But
get the hint.
to her specific experience, I mean, if you had, a cocaine cartel who we were informed in court was selling cocaine, there was nobody that we knew who was actually buying the cocaine, it would be kind of difficult to put that person into prison. But we did that because we all knew what was going on, but we weren't privy to that information. Now, I think we need to have a certain level of transparency. I don't want to jeopardize ongoing investigations, but
Sure.
I think that the American people, in order to have at least a semblance of a chance to get to a place where we might be able to trust the FBI and the Department of Justice even a little bit again, you got to give us a name. Just give us one, even if it's one that we all know was involved, even if we know it's Prince Andrew, whoever it is, we need to have one name out here so we know that you're actually doing the job.
Okay, now you bring up an excellent point. I heard somebody say this, and I hadn't even thought about this before, but I heard someone say, listen, this Epstein files thing is going to be a dud ultimately, just because if there are other people involved, the DOJ, Pam Bundy, they're going to have to bring charges against these people, and they're not going to let this information out in the public. So even if Pam Bundy wanted to release information, she couldn't in case there was a potential case that she wanted to prosecute. Does that sound legitimate?
Yeah, it does. And look, I think the people are just desperate. They're like walking through the desert looking for any sort of drink. And the Epstein list is what we've happened to cling on to. But that doesn't mean that Pam Bondi's hands are tied with other matters that she could be fully transparent with, and just let this one breathe and say, look, we're really working on this. And just to ensure that you believe that we're trying and pledging to be actually transparent with you, here's the information on something else, like the Butler assassination attempt. Right. Or the Las Vegas shooting, incidents where those individuals are no longer living, and there's no real investigation going on, no expectation of privacy. And those are the sorts of details that the American people should know and should actually have access to.
Yeah, I'm in agreement with that. I mean, the JFK files, MLK, all this type of stuff. Frankly, I don't expect to learn any new information with JFK, but I know people get a kick out of it. Who knows? Maybe I'm wrong. I am interested to know if there's more behind MLK, and I feel the same. I'm like, if they're dead, I don't think it's going to, I mean, everybody that was alive then, I'm assuming is dead that was involved. So who is it going to hurt at this point? I just don't get that. All right, let me ask you a couple more things. This one, a little more trivial. Again, I'm speaking to my guest, Stephen Friend. Go out and get his book. his book, True Blue, My Journey from Beat Cop to Suspended FBI Whistleblower. And guys, please support him because, and Steve, real quick, where can people go to find you online and your podcast as well?
Well, you can find me on X. The handle is @RealSteveFriend. And you can find my podcast, which is on Rumble, called the American Radicals Podcast, rumble.com/amradpod. It's also available on iTunes, Spotify, and iHeart.
All right. Okay. So please support this man. I mean, literally, he did the right thing. He lost his career as a result of it. And I'm hoping that the FBI will reward him for being an honorable, good guy. Okay, this is a little more petty, but I do want to get your take on this. FBI returns boxes to Trump that were confiscated during the Mar-a-Lago raid. Obviously, that was a big, a big scam, and in my opinion, he should have never been. Mar-a-Lago should have never been raided. That should have never happened. The boxes being returned, obviously, Kash Patel has something to do with this. Your take on that?
Case closed. They're in order to close the actual case, they have to return the evidence that was seized. So that's in keeping with the policy. And I believe that several members of the task force that was involved at the squad, the counterintelligence squad. Why was a counterintelligence squad in Washington, D.C. looking at classified documents in Florida? Who knows? Maybe it was a politicized agency. That was called Plasmic Echo. And that squad, several members of them were actually removed from duty. Is
there just 2 minutes left here? All right, we spoke about this guy. What's his name again? James Dennehy. Okay, so obviously this is a broad, sweeping generalization here, but anybody that came into the FBI or joined the FBI immediately following 9/11, should we clear them out? Should we be concerned about it? Where does Kash Patel start the cleaning? I'll ask that.
Well, I think he has to start at headquarters because over 1/5 of the entire FBI personnel work in Washington, D.C., between headquarters and Washington field office. That doesn't even include Richmond or Baltimore or even Philadelphia. There's just way too much bloat there in the swamp. But they need to look to the upper ranks of people and realize that guys like James Dennehy, people who have ascended the very top of the pyramid, by and large, are a decade and a half removed from actually doing the work of an FBI agent. And they have completely lost all touch with what goes on.
Wait, break that down, Steve. We only got a minute. But when you say they haven't done FBI work in a decade, I mean, that's kind of mind-blowing.
In order to promote to the FBI, because there's mandatory retirement age, the minimum amount of time you have to do before you can start to promote is 5 to 6 years of experience. And therefore, the guys that are really at the tippy top have that basic experience, normally in a big city where they weren't really breaking their own cases. They were just members of a squad, sending subpoenas out, weren't really doing the work that the American people sort of expect from watching TV and movies. Invariably, look at their LinkedIn accounts, look at their resumes whenever there's an announcement they get promoted, 5 years and up.
Okay. All right. Stephen Friend, you guys have got to follow him, listen to him online, and I'm going to have him back on Prager's show just because I think it'll be fun to talk Epstein and Ghislaine Maxwell, given the stuff that Stephen has just said. So anyway, man, I appreciate you, as always, coming on to the program.
You got it, brother. Anytime you want.
All right, man. Appreciate you. All right, guys, make sure you follow me, all things social media, at Carl Jackson Show, X, Instagram, and Facebook. Por favor. Thank you. I want you guys to hear what Secretary of State Marco Rubio had to say to George Stephanopoulos when he appeared on his program over the weekend.